Alright, this is my SAM Coupé computer. And actually, since the last time I got this out, for some reason the ink on the logo is smudged. I have absolutely no idea why, because it was just sitting in a plastic container all this time. Maybe I'll talk about the computer a little bit, and then I'll show off some software for it, and then go back to talking about the computer a little bit more, and kind of break it down into little bite-sized chunks. I think that would make for a nice, interesting video. So the SAM Coupé is a unique British 8-bit computer, and to be fair, it did exist in the Spectrum world a little bit. The people that made the company behind it, Miles Gordon Technology, are ex-Sinclair people, and this computer is compatible with ZX Spectrum games. If you use a bundled emulator, it is compatible with ZX Spectrum games. But for an 8-bit computer, it's got some pretty good specs. It's got a heck of a lot more RAM than other 8-bit computers. It's got a faster processor than other 8-bit computers. It's got a better sound chip than most 8-bit computers. For the first game, I want to play Defenders of the Earth. This is a game I've not done a video of yet, but I think it was the first game that was released for the SAM Coupé. Right, here we go. The disc is in here. So looking at this, you could sort of think that a lot of these games are much the same as Amiga games, because they come in big boxes and they come on floppy disks. But early SAM Coupé games did also come on cassette tape. I think the instructions are always just instructions for other machines that was just thrown in here. There's no talk about the SAM Coupé in these instruction manuals. But they did often come with an additional piece of paper with SAM Coupé instructions. So here you go, instructions for loading on disc or cassette. And it says here that it takes 23 minutes to load if you use a cassette, which is a really long time for a cassette game, but the SAM Coupé has a lot of memory, and it has special call commands for early SAM Coupé machines. Alright, so let's play some Defenders of the Earth. I don't think I've done a video of this game yet. Anytime I play it, I don't really get much gameplay in there, because you die very quickly. I read that this was the first game to be made for the SAM Coupé, and it came out several months after the machine was first released. That title screen music's really good though. It's based on the cartoon theme tune. So the game itself is a pretty simple flip screen shooter. The graphics are really nice. It really looks like a 16-bit game. So I think people would have been quite impressed by it at the time. It is relentless though. It is completely relentless though. I think it's a little bit too fast. Game over. I think it's one of those games that's really hard because it's also really short. Is it just me that thinks this, or does the title screen music change? The music's different now, isn't it? Should we give it another go? I never got a chance to say earlier, but there are certain sections of the game where you get stuck and you have to press the one key on the keyboard, and one of your friends at the bottom there will help you to get past by opening doors or closing gaps, things like that. But you play as Flash Gordon and you have the other members of the Defenders of the Earth. I actually can't remember what their names are. I can't remember if I watched the cartoon. I don't remember if I watched the cartoon, but I really liked the music for the cartoon. Oh, got some energy. And sometimes you have to press down to go through a door, and sometimes you have to press up to go through a door. Am I just going backwards? I'm going backwards, aren't I? What the hell am I doing? I don't think I realised that at the time, but I just went back on myself. I think I had this on the Amstrad, but I got it on a cover tape, and I didn't really play it very much. The game itself is alright. I mean, I wouldn't call it good or anything. But because there's so few games to play on the SAM Coupé, I like it on the SAM more than I like it on other formats. It does actually have that kind of one more go factor. I'll probably have to press 1 here to get through this bit. Quick, help me! Oh, there we go. So yeah, the game just throws enemies at you relentlessly. It's a pretty tough one. So I think software was a little bit scarce for this machine during its initial release. They didn't sell very well, and a lot of commercial companies completely ignored it. Or at least they were just waiting to see how well it sold before they started committing to it. But obviously, a lack of software means less people are going to buy your machine as well. But I had that problem too. So I bought this machine for about £400. And that sounds like a lot of money for an old 8-bit computer. But I think that's about the going price. But what I didn't realise at the time is that I was buying a bog standard machine. So I think the machine that I bought was one that somebody bought originally. So like a very early machine. And they didn't really do anything with it. They just put it back in the box and it had just been sitting in their loft for years. Because I got the thing out and it didn't have a disk drive. Now I thought disk drives came as standard, but it didn't even have a disk drive and it didn't have any games with it. The only things that it had was a couple of cassette tapes. So it had these 3. So this cassette has got a little demonstration on it. It has Flash, which is an art package. And you can see there, 1989. It came with this, which has got the Spectrum emulator on it. And it came with this, which is a newer emulator that's more compatible. But that was it. The only thing I could do was load up Flash or play Spectrum games. That's not exactly what I bought the SAM Coupé for. I have a ZX Spectrum already. So what I really wanted was some games. I think I looked on eBay for weeks and weeks trying to find some games, and the only things that were on there was disc games. There was no cassette games at all, so I really had to buy a disc drive. And thankfully, there's a guy that goes by the name of Quasar, and you can sort of see his name there on this disc drive here. He makes hardware for the SAM Coupé, and I bought a lot of stuff from him to upgrade my SAM Coupé. But I also bought a lot of issues of a magazine that Quasar has made, otherwise known as Colin Piggott, called SAM Revival Magazine. So for the next game I'm going to do, I'm going to play one of the games on the SAM Revival cover disc, and I think I'll play Flappy Bird. This is a SAM Coupé version of Flappy Bird, which is really cool actually. So yeah, thank you to SAM Revival Magazine for giving me something to actually play on my machine. Here we are. Let's play Flappy Bird.
Wasn't this a bit of a phenomenon on mobile phones a few years back? Very, very simple controls. Press the space bar to fly, or to get a little boost, get like an air jump sort of thing. This is another game that has a strong one more go factor. You can sort of tell by looking at it that it's not a game from the 90s. Games from the 90s don't look like this. It seems to me, anyway, that more modern games, indie games, often go for a very nicely polished look, but with simple to draw graphics. But to be honest with you, if you was looking at this, you wouldn't know it was a SAM Coupé game. I think it's from 2021. I'm going to keep trying until I get a decent score. Actually, this does have pretty smooth scrolling, or at least it appears to be smoothly scrolling, and it's got parallax scrolling as well. I think it might be some sort of trickery, because I don't think the SAM Coupé has any specific hardware for sprites or scrolling or anything like that. You can see that the game view is a little bit smaller than full screen, which might be to speed it up a bit. But yeah, it's very nice and colourful. I mean, you could say that this definitely looks like a 16-bit game by just looking at it. 40's not too bad, is it?
I did find some tape games eventually for the SAM Coupé, but I did only buy one of them, and this is what I ended up buying. The famous Five on a Treasure Island, based on the famous books. And this is a text adventure, which is a genre you don't see very often anymore. And I think these pictures are unique to the SAM Coupé version of the game, which is really nice. That shows off the graphics capabilities of the machine. Although this game's not exclusive to the SAM Coupé, it's on quite a lot of different machines. And actually, this is a pretty sophisticated game for a text adventure. This is not really a genre that I'm all that familiar with, but there's lots of things you can do. You can change which character you control. You can tell other people what to do, although they don't always listen to you. You can give them objects. Different characters have got different capabilities, so smaller people can get in certain areas that bigger people can't, and it's actually pretty in depth. This tape player is already plugged into my SAM Coupé. There's a cassette port at the back there, and all we need to do is press F7 and start the tape. I chose this to show games loading from cassette tape, but I'm obviously not going to show the whole 25 minutes of loading. But this is some poor SAM owners out there had to actually sit through this to load up games if they didn't have disk drives, because I think the cost of a disk drive did actually add quite a lot to the cost of the machine, and then you were starting to get to the point where maybe it wasn't that much cheaper than just buying a 16-bit machine. Look how slowly it loads in just a loading screen. And this loading screen's nothing to do with the game. As soon as the game is loaded, this loading screen is just discarded. It's just wasted memory. I don't think cassette tapes were really designed for computers with 0.5 MB of RAM. I mean, even on the ZX81, tape games take a couple of minutes to load. Right, so that's the loading screen. That took about 3 minutes. The game itself, okay. I think I had this game on an Amstrad cover tape as well. Right, so we're on a train, and I have Dick and Ann with me. If I type look, then I get to see the picture again. So it's nice that it's telling me who's here with me, because I think characters can leave the room. Well, they might follow you around to a certain extent, but I think characters can go off on their own. Oh, so we've been invited to go visit Aunt Fanny. And we're going to visit our cousin Georgina. Yeah, let's try to leave the train. Oh, try to get off too early. Right, now leave the train. Oh, we're at Kirin Station. Those are some nice pictures.
Alright, the train is still here. Aunt Fanny was here waiting for us. Now we need to follow Aunt Fanny. Is this way? Which way? I should have tried to get back on the train just before it left. Oh, she's going east. Let's follow her to the east. Northeast. Okay, yeah, so you're getting you get a picture in your head of where you are. Punch Dick, because he deserves it. Hoarding all the sandwiches to himself. George scowls fiercely at Dick. Everyone hates Dick. Oh, there we go. So we're at Aunt Fanny's house. Someone closes the front door. Oh, alright then, so slam the door in my face, why don't you? I must admit I had a walkthrough open as I was recording this, because otherwise I wouldn't have gotten anywhere. So yeah, let's go to the back garden. Run away. Damn it. I'm stuck with these losers. I don't know, are we all brothers and sisters then? Except Georgina. And I think the fifth member is the dog. There's some nice descriptions of the rooms. Ah, there's some rope in this tool shed. Right, let's take that. That might come in handy for our adventures later on. Yeah, I don't think text adventures make for very good videos, unfortunately. Let's skip ahead a bit, because I did play this for quite a long time. Okay, so examine clock. I see a battery. So that's nice. You can examine items, and closer descriptions of the items might make other items become available. Yeah, so now I've got some batteries. Inventory. Oh yeah, so I can see what I have. I have some batteries, some matches, some pocket money, and a rope. Oh yeah, so I picked up some matches a bit earlier in the bedrooms. Apparently I've got some pocket money, which is nice. I wonder if you can go into town and buy something with your pocket money. Yeah, I can see people really getting into these adventure games. But you just don't see games like this very much anymore. Maybe people do still make games like this, I don't know. I used to have a program that made text adventures for my Amstrad called Graphic Adventure Creator. And to be honest, I really liked using that to make things, but I didn't ever really make any proper games on it. I guess I'm a creative type of person, so yeah, it was a lot of fun. Oh, I'm carrying too much. I kind of need to take the torch so I can see where I'm going. Anne says, "Thank you for giving me the rope." Oh, Uncle Quentin's here. Uncle Quentin's having a few words with Dick. Why is everyone being so mean to Dick? I punched him earlier. Georgina hates his guts. And now Uncle Quentin's having a word with him. I'm not up to any mischief. I'm just trying to solve the puzzles. What does he do? Everyone's down here in the dark having a conversation. Everyone's down here in the dark having a conversation. I think I'll stop playing this now.
Now, something I have, which is not a game, but it's a really cool utility called Games Master, is actually a program that lets you make games. And I think this would have been really useful for people wanting to support their machine and make games, because there was a lack of software. I mean, there was a lack of quality software for the SAM Coupé, and I can imagine quite a few games were made using this. And I think there was another one called Scads that was released. One of these days I might sit down and see if I can do something with this. But for now I've made a copy of it to keep my disc in good condition. I've made a copy of it. Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
Actually, this is a program that I waited to buy a copy of for years and years after getting my SAM Coupé, because I just really wanted to. I was fired up to contribute towards the the SAM Coupé community by making a game for them. And then I took one look at this menu and just thought, oh my god, this looks complicated. So that's what the game looks like with nothing in it. I'm not really sure the proper way to get back to the main menu, but it does work if you break into the program and just tell it to run again. But what we'll do is we'll take a look at there's some stuff on the disk to get you started. There's a couple of examples and a couple of little like screensavers and things like that, like the special programming language that you use. Which one should we take a look at? Should we take a look at fish? Let's see what fish is. So this is just like source code. So now it's loaded in. You can take a look at the different things, or you can just run it and take a look at something. So yeah, that's actually quite nice, isn't it? It does appear to be going quite slow, but there's quite a lot of objects on screen at once. And all of those fish are colliding with each other, I think. The fish are interacting with each other. You've got a fair few sprites on screen at once. I'm not sure if there's any way to program in a large game area that you can scroll around in, or whether it is just single screens. I don't actually know how sophisticated this game making program is, but obviously at this point I know absolutely nothing about this, and I'm going to guess there's a lot to learn before you can start doing stuff with it. Alright, let's have a look at something else then. What else can we look at? Platform, which I can only guess that that's an example of a platforming game for you to take a look at. So that's all the different objects. I don't know if that's just... See, it's calling things sprites, but I don't know if any object is a sprite or if it's just movable objects that are sprites. Alright, so that's a competent walking animation. Although the colours are not very good. Kind of looks like it's using the wrong palette, doesn't it? So let's see what this thing looks like. There we go. So we've got ourselves a platform game here. Oh, that animation doesn't look as good in game, does it? I don't know if you noticed this, but when you turn around, the game sort of pauses for a second, and that's actually a feature of Games Master, that it just uses code to flip all of the animation frames around just to save memory, so you don't have to draw them facing both ways. Yeah, there's a noticeable pause every time you turn around, so I don't think I would use that feature in any of my games. I'd either have a character that just always faces forward, so you don't need to have two different animations for left and right, or I would just use the extra memory to have full frames both directions. I don't know if it's possible to add music to these games. I mean, I suppose it's probably technically possible by just like coding it in, but I don't have any Z80 programming knowledge, and that sort of defeats the purpose of a game making program like this, doesn't it? So let's take a look at walking. Let's see what walking is. That's a fairly big sprite, isn't it? It's a fairly big character. Actually, isn't that the main character from Gods? Looks good though, there's lots and lots of colours. So I guess this example shows you being able to walk behind and in front of different objects. But yeah, that's a look at Games Master. I think a really good utility. It's a really good app for the SAM Coupé, and I'm pretty sure it was used in some commercial games as well.
It's not very straight, is it? So I think I said earlier that the SAM Coupé existed in the Spectrum world, and the reason I say that is because it was only really publicised in Spectrum magazines, and in fact there was even some SAM Coupé demos on Sinclair magazine cover tapes, like this one here, Prince of Persia. I'd never heard of the machine myself because I wasn't a Spectrum owner. The idea was people that had a ZX Spectrum computer weren't going to get any new models, so this was sort of marketed as a reasonable new computer for you to buy with better specs. And actually it was also sort of seen as an option for people that might want to buy an Amiga or an Atari ST. But of course those computers were a lot more expensive than what the SAM Coupé would have been at the time. So I think actually it was a pretty solid idea. So I think next up I'll at least attempt to get it to load up a Spectrum game. I do have quite a few utility tapes here. I don't know why I bought so many of them. They've all got the same things on them. But if I can get one of these to load up correctly, and I can get it to load up a Spectrum game, then I'll show off some Spectrum games. But the chances are that won't work because I've just always had lots of trouble getting it to load up Spectrum games. It is actually a little bit dusty in here. So this is the SAM Coupé motherboard, and it's really small. I mean, compared to the size of the computer case, it's really small. And actually most of that is just to make space for the disk drives. So I can only assume that is the processor. That is probably the custom SAM Coupé ASIC chip. That is the main ROM, which is, you see there, ROM 3. That's probably the RAM and expanded RAM. Thanks to Quasar for making that. And I think the sound chip is actually that tiny little thing there. So I never knew a sound chip would be that small, but that appears to be what it is. And so I'm going to plug in this disk drive emulator, and then I'll be able to show off a few more little bits and pieces. Yeah, so I could not get it to load up any Spectrum games using the bundled emulators, and I tried. I really tried. So what I've done is I've downloaded some discs of converted Spectrum games, some converted 128K Spectrum games. So these are Spectrum games running on the SAM Coupé.
Hey, this music's pretty cool. Incidentally, this game came out in 1990, so this game would have came out just about the time that people were buying SAM Coupés, and so yeah, if they were limited to only Spectrum games, they might have been playing this. And actually looking at it, it looks like an alright game. It's probably an arcade conversion. It's funny, you know, I do have this picture in my head of a lot of Spectrum games being a bit crappy. But, you know, sometimes you do see some really quite complex, competent games that were converted over. Sometimes they run at a decent pace as well. But yeah, if you'd loaded this game up using the bundled emulators, then you wouldn't get music, and you'd be missing out on really cool music like this. So this is another game that came out after the SAM Coupé came out. So I think it's fair to say that there was a lot of games released for the Spectrum that are perfectly good games that you wouldn't have had an issue playing on your SAM. So it's just a little bit like if you'd bought a Mega Drive, then you could buy that Master System converter and you could still buy Master System games for it, which made a lot more games available for you. And you know, there's no shame in buying a game for a lesser machine if it's a good game. I really loved the Dizzy games at the time, and this game, Prince of the Yoke Folk, was a part of a box set of 5 Dizzy games, and to be honest, I think it was the best thing we ever bought for the Amstrad. I absolutely loved the Dizzy games, and it's a shame that there was one more Dizzy game released. Well, I think there was 2 more Dizzy games released after the excellent Dizzy's Excellent Adventures box set, and that was Bubble Dizzy, which was a bit shitty on the Amstrad, and there was also Crystal Kingdom Dizzy, which came so late that we'd actually moved on by then.
Alright, yeah, so that's the end of the video. I I really like the SAM Coupé. I think it's a really good computer. It's a shame what happened to it originally, but as with a lot of these machines, there's still a user base out there, and people make homebrew games, and these machines just live on. One of these days, hopefully, I'll get to play Treasure Island Dizzy on this machine, which will be absolutely amazing. I really do look forward to that when it comes out. And so with that, I'll end the video. Thank you for watching.